Hi there, welcome to Polite Pooch 1. This is week 1 of our online Facebook class. So I have Miss Scody here, and she is going to teach us help us learn the four skills we're going to work on today. So the first thing we need to do, if you've never used one before, I'm just going to look at my notes here. What we're looking at, we're going to do some targeting, sit, focus, and a little bit of recall or come when called. But the first thing we need to do before we do anything is, if you've never used it before, is teach the dog a marker signal. A marker is just a way of communicating with the dog that that behavior you just did now is the behavior that I was looking for. That's the behavior you're going to get reinforced for. You're going to get a treat, or you're going to get the toy thrown, or you're going to get the door opened, or whatever it is you're using as a reinforcer. For our purposes in a training class, we use food because throwing a toy would be a little bit disruptive with other dogs and things like that. But when you're at home, you can certainly use whatever you want. Now, I use two kinds of markers. The first one is a clicker, because it's very short, sharp, and precise. So when she does the behavior that I'm looking for, let's say a sit, I'm going to click as soon as her bottom hits the ground, and then I provide the treat. So it looks like this to start out. You're going to, I can't see her, can you, because the camera's a little bit high. So I'm going to adjust the camera just a little bit. There we go. Okay. So basically, the first step is just teaching the dog the sound of the marker. So I'm going to break up some treats. So I have them in my hand. She's practicing her heeling. That's very cute. Yes. Scody's 7. And I have 4 dogs, 2 boys, 2 girls. She's my youngest girl. So I have some treats in my hand. I'm going to put a couple in both hands. I'm going to put my clicker in this hand. It doesn't really matter which you use. So let's just say for now, I'm just getting her to understand what the click means. So I'm going to click and treat. And it's 2 very deliberate actions. Click, then I move my hand to treat. So I'm even going to put my hands behind my back because I don't want her looking at my hand and not really paying attention to the click. So it's going to be click. And you see how she looked to my hand because she knew when I hear the click, I know the treat is coming. And she looks, so for her, of course, she's done this because she's my dog and we've done this a lot. But with a new dog, at first, they'll hear the click and be looking around and like, I don't know what that is. When you start to see that reaction, when they kind of look excited when they hear the click, you know they're starting to make that connection. So you won't have to do this exercise every time. This is just the first time you teach them. So you can do that about a dozen times, and then you're done. They understand what the click means. You also, if you don't have a clicker, you don't need one. You can use a marker word, and the marker word would be a very short word, so 1 syllable. Make sure it's 1 syllable, and I use the word yes. It's really a terrible marker word because we say it so much. So I'm actually teaching one of my clients' dogs in Spanish because he wanted the dog to know Spanish, and sí, it makes a really good marker word, much better than English, yes, because yes, we kind of draw it, we go yes, 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 yes. So we change it. Sí is really hard to change. So I like that word sí. But for my dogs, I started with yes, so I stick with yes. So that we do it the same way. So pretend you don't have a clicker. You're going to do the same thing. Yes, treat. Yes, treat. Yes, treat. And sometimes you're going to treat from the other hand too. Yes, treat. Because you don't want your dog just always expecting the treat to come from the same place. The treat could come from either hand, depending on what you're doing and depending on what you need to use your hands to do. So you can practice with both hands. So do that about a dozen times each. That's setting the marker word. So basically, yes. And how I use it is, whoops, I dropped a treat. Find it. How I use it is, if I click with the mechanical clicker, I always follow it with food. So it's very clear to my dog. Click, we're working with food. If I use a verbal marker, it might be food, it might be another type of reinforcer. It might be praise, it might be petting, it might be what we call a life reward, meaning, we're going to go outside. It might mean, my cat is here. It might mean, this Bam Bam. It might mean, I'm going to throw the toy for you. It might mean we're going to play a game of tug. It might mean the door's going to open and you can go outside. So it's a different type of reinforcement than food or possibly food, but you always will get reinforcement. So, we don't want to just say yes and not give anything, because that's going to minimize the strength of your marker over time if you do that. So if you mark, you must treat, even if you mark accidentally. So if you think the dog is going to, I'm laughing at my cat because he's going to jump over the barrier that's right there, but he doesn't need to. There's a cat door, but he won't do it that way. He's going to jump over. Anyway, the marker word has to be followed up with some type of reinforcement, or you will lose the strength of, even if it's just praise, even if you have nothing with you at the moment but praise or a little pat on the head or something that your dog likes, physical contact, tactile, use that because you don't want your marker word to become less meaningful over time. Then you're like the boy who cried wolf, who says, there's a wolf, and there isn't, and there isn't, and there isn't, and pretty soon people start ignoring them, and then there really was a wolf. So you want to keep that marker very strong.